Take two. Technical difficulties. This morning we've got a passage from the Bible. First home buyers, listen up. This one's for you. We're going to talk about how you can unlock your first property much sooner than you thought, making the impossible possible with first home buyer grants you didn't even know about. Tune in. That reporting for duty, the first home buyer wizards.
Do you know what? The amount of people that I talk about what they can get that are surprised never ceases to amaze me. The ins and outs and outs and ins. There's not really a person or that can explain this beautifully that you can sort of just ring up. It's a minefield, this first home buyer thing.
I know, it's even worse. It's just try Google it. You'll go crazy. So yeah, as you said, it's lovely to have someone like a broker or a solicitor that really understands it, either from the finance end or from the paperwork end, or a local agent you can just ring up and have a chat with, because trying to understand this on your own before you actually buy your first property, it's like reverse engineering the whole steps to get to your first property. It's really tricky.
So I guess where it all starts is you're a first home buyer and everyone's telling you about higher interest rates. Everyone's telling you about how hard it is to get in the property market. Everyone's telling you about the adversities. But I don't find there's people telling you about the hacks or the ways in or the workarounds, the grants, more importantly, that are available to you. This morning's episode's about the different and various grants that there are, and there's plenty of them.
That's it. So we've actually got a few to go through. So let's just crack on. The first grant, arguably the easiest to obtain. There's 35,000 spaces every year released by New South Wales government to a variety of lenders, and that's called the First Home Buyer Assistance Scheme. This one here.
Yeah.
And this little holy Bible is available, soft copy, hard copies, wherever you are in the world. We can send this to you. This is an asset that our team's put together to keep everything in one place for you. But this will allow you to buy a property with a 5% deposit up to $800,000 and spend $0 on stamp duty. For a regular purchase, if you were to have to pay stamp duty on $800,000, it's about a $23,000 saving. So that's a really important one to know about. And your broker can help you make a submission to get a spot on that. 35,000 spaces every year. You with us, Mark?
Yeah, big time. Now, so can we put that link in at the end of the show? The link of the First Home Buyer book Bible that we've got.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. Yeah.
Cool.
Next one.
Tell us about the superannuation.
Next one.
That as a first, it's about.
I've lost you. Say again.
Tell us about the superannuation. How you can use your super towards buying a first home buyer property.
Well, the superannuation one's a bit clever. What it allows you to do is actually make your savings a whole lot quicker. So it's a little bit more of an unknown one than what you'll find online. It's not talked about as much. However, you can make a self-made contribution into your super, and anything on top of what's your employer is making, you can pull that out as savings, and it goes in at a reduced tax rate. So Mark, you're a bit of an expert on this. I think you've actually helped a few clients with their kids go through this as well. But effectively, you can be saving at almost 2 times the speed as what you could traditionally in a regular bank account, because that's all, it's all prepaid tax money, or postpaid tax money, sorry, in a bank account. So in its simplest terms, you're making the same amount of savings. Sorry, you're doing the same amount of work, but you're doubling your savings. Rather than putting it into a bank account, it's going elsewhere, sits in the super doing the exact same job.
And just to sort of crystallize that, if you in the course of a year save $10,000, you will have to pay tax before you save that $10,000. So if you're paying 20% tax, 30% tax, 40% tax to save that $10,000, it will take longer for you to save the $10,000. What they do with super is they say, we're going to allow you to do a voluntary contribution of that $10,000 at a bugger all tax rate, rather than a 20, 30, 40% tax rate. So then this is where people get confused. We're going to allow you got to put it into your super. So basically your employer's got to do it for you generally. That's where it gets complicated. Then we're going to allow you to yank it out and push it over as a deposit into your home. Now there's paperwork. It can't just be done by the blink of an eye. It's got to be premeditated. You've got to organise this with your employer. You've got to organise this with your super. You've got to organise this with the government with relevant paperwork. But if someone said, I'm going to help you save 20, 30, 40% more or faster, that's attractive to me as a first home buyer. But I've got to tell you, I reckon the take up is jack shit. I reckon the amount of people doing it, it's just too complicated. But if you can get around it, guys, there's a river of money that you can save very, very quickly.
Yeah, and a really good point here is a lot of this paperwork you actually can talk to a broker and they can help you with. So when I bought my first property, the amount of paperwork that I actually submitted was very minimal. However, we did have a couple of meetings and sit downs with the family, mum and dad, or it can be any relative, and it can be your broker working out the best way to get that over the line for you. So you're not supposed to be doing this alone. It's not a one-man show. Employ those people that can help, because it will really benefit you. Second one,
and to give people an idea, a property of $600,000 as a first home buyer, you have the ability to buy that with as little as a 5% deposit, which is $30,000. You have no stamp duty to pay. So with 30 grand, you can buy a property for 600 grand if you navigate through this correctly. And in order to save that 30 grand, there's this, you can use part of your super as well, which is really, really attractive. But I just don't feel like there's anyone holding your hand and actually stepping you through this, because it's a myriad of different grants that are available. So don't forget, there's the superannuation one. It's different to your people think that they can't buy property in their super. This is different. Read up on it, research it, learn about it. There's your no stamp duty. So your stamp duty on 750 grand can be 30 grand. So you're not having to pay stamp duty. Big bonus. What are your other ones out there, Billy, that are available?
Before we just move on quickly, also just to clear up any confusion, there was a lot of talk about a property tax coming in, where you could opt in to pay an annual fee rather than stamp duty if you did have to make any contribution. That's no longer exists. Forget it ever came in. What they've done is they've replaced that by increasing the limits. So now it's just up to 800,000. So that's really important to know. Next one, you got your first home owner grant. This is for new properties. new properties, and that's a $10,000 contribution towards the purchase price, in addition to the first home buyers assistance scheme benefits. So that's buying or building your first home, and it's new, no one else has lived in before, and it can't be worth more than $750,000. So particularly, interesting if you're looking at a new build opportunity, maybe like a house and land.
So how much is that again?
Can't be more than $750,000 for the home, new home, brand new, no one lived in it before, and it's a $10,000 contribution from the government.
$10,000
on top of the first home buyer assistance scheme benefits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other grants available to first home buyers that we can tell people about?
That's the big ones. You've got a shared equity home buyer helper, which is single parents of a dependent child or children.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yeah, of age or above, and key workers. So that's nurses, midwives, paramedics, teachers, early childhood educators, police, those kind of people, the people that make the world go round.
So what do key workers get?
They qualify for a shared equity home buyer helper. So that refers back to the deposit amount. It's usually 5%, but it can be as low as 2%. If you're in one of those key roles, there's some eligibility requirements. You can't have a gross income of more than $90,000 for singles, $120,000 for couples, and the maximum purchase price for Sydney and other sort of surrounding areas is $950,000, $600,000 for regional areas. But it really refers back to that deposit amount. It can be as low as 2% deposit. Just talk to your broker about that one, because there's some help. Assistance is the key word in the headline from the government.
I thought that was just for single parents, but key workers as well. That's massive.
Yeah. So if you fall under any of those, roles, nurses, midwives, paramedics, teachers, early childhood educators, and police, things like that, you could be in for a winner there. So that's really important.
Now, also, before we go, I do have to add, and I have this discussion daily with people. Be careful who you're buying property with. Because you want to. This grant is huge. So again, I had a couple yesterday that I was talking with. They wanted to buy a little house, a couple, and they wanted to bring a third friend in to buy the house. They wanted to do the house up and then sell it. And I was like, guys, just be careful, because you are both eligible for first home buyer grants. You can rent first. So I said, what you can do is you can go and buy a little place for $500-$600 to the husband, to the wife. I said, you can go and buy a little place. Well, they weren't husband or wife, they're boyfriend, girlfriend. You can go and buy a place yourself. You don't have partners. And I said, do the places up, rent them out. Go and rent the house that you're talking about that you love. And I said 3, 4, 5 years later, go again, or you can always sell those properties. So just purely because you're burning when you're not getting that stamp duty off, when you're not using a 5% deposit, you're losing some opportunity there and some money.
Yeah, absolutely. And there used to be, you couldn't buy, some limitations around who you could buy property with. You'd actually have to be, married. If you're going in together, that's changed. You can now buy with a sibling. So again, that's opened up options. Maybe don't look externally to friends. If you can keep it together and you've got a good relationship with your brother or sister. I know they're rare, far and few between, but if you want to buy a property together, it's now possible.
Do it on your own if you can. And that's a show.
That's the show. One other thing before we go, Mark. You also might have seen, if you have been out of your property, so if you've had your first home, sold it, and been out of your own property for more than 10 years, you can get back in. That's another new change. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So
Tell us more
give us a buzz.
about that.
So if you've owned your first property and you sold it and
Yes.
you've now been living in rental, or you've been who knows what your situation's been, but you haven't. The point is, you haven't lived in your first home for more than 10 years. There is a way back in. So that's another new change that's come in. I think a really important one to know. Worth mentioning to lots of people, if they feel like they're trying to get back in but they need a lucky break, that might be another change they haven't heard about. So yeah, get in touch. We can help you with any.
There's a re-entry for first home buyers. Grants.
More than 10 years. That's the condition.
That is so cool. Okay.
Yeah. So like we do a lot of business in the price point. We have some really good referral, people we can put you in touch with as well if you need any help on the finance side. I'd love to help.
And that's first home buyers for ya. Love you. See ya. Bye. Thanks, Billy Bob.
See ya.